Kieran Walker and I founded Northeast Project in 2018, and this is Inside NEP.
Why did you start Northeast Projects?
So I started Northeast Project in 2018 because I wanted to help people fulfill their potential in an environment that wasn't helping them to fill their potential. So I devote my life, really, my week, to getting people to the top of their potential, to be the best they can be, in overcoming all the obstacles that they face in their life, in bringing the science, bringing the passion, the knowledge, the direction to people's lives.
How do you see the club now, would you say?
Yeah, I guess I think there's a common theme across the last 8 years that what I've just said, that strategy is what I do every week. But yeah, there's the environment, has it changed? I think there's less passion in the environment, in the communities that I work in across Newcastle, Sunderland, Durham, Teesside area, because I can't speak for the rest of the UK. But so it's much harder now to coach. There's a lot more obstacles for people in terms of the information that they see from other places, the different influences that they have. I think kind of people's work-life balance has changed as well. So there's lots of factors, I guess, against people. So even more reason to have the structure, the science, and the realism that NEP brings.
How do you write your athletes' day-by-day training plans?
So from a software point of view, I use Final Surge, which is an app that you can write training on, and people receive it on the phone, get email updates and stuff like that. In terms of how I actually write a plan, so I tend to do maybe just a week or 2 weeks at a time, really. You know, you can write extended plans, but a lot of things happen in that time. And I actually think it's quite lazy coaching, just writing a big block and leaving someone to it. But so when I'm looking at, say, the last few weeks before I write the next couple of weeks, I'm reading the day-to-day kind of analysis of things. I'm looking at how people comment and respond to the workout. So in the app, people can comment and they can talk about the workout. Some people give me like a weekly review in terms of a structured sense. You know, people don't really like structure like that. It's more, has to be more organic, I feel. So obviously I get a lot of messages and I get a lot of feedback day to day in person. So you kind of bank all that information in your head until you go and write the plan, and then you can draw on that information. You know, I'm reading through people's Strava, I'm looking at how they talk about the workouts, I'm looking about really how they're talking about it to themselves, how they talk about themselves to themselves. And you can really get a gist of someone's mindset. I'm really looking at people's mindset and reaction to training. Physically, I'm looking at the reaction by the words that they write, or you know, how they even start a run. You know, little things like looking at how the first rep goes in some workouts, or how's the first mile after a really hard workout on their easy run. You know, is it really sluggish? Is the heart rate quite high? You know, and then you can tell things like that. But yeah, the more communication you get between the athlete and the coach, the better the plan will be. But in terms of writing what workout I'm going to give them next week, I'm looking at what goal they've got, I'm looking at what point they are on the block, I'm looking at what they've done, I'm looking at what they've not done. Because training is about adding to what you've already done, not replacing what's worked. You have to add to what's already worked. I'm also looking at what's worked in the past. So regularly, especially people I've worked with for 5 years or longer, I look at, okay, what worked 3 years ago when that block was really good. You know, when you made this breakthrough over here, what worked really well there? What were the themes of that? What were some of the drawbacks from that block? And there's a lot of analysis between blocks as well. So whether it's went good or bad, we want to sit down and want to analyse the whole thing, the package, and look at, you know, what exactly have we done to produce this result. Therefore, you can use that information to build things in the future. You know, it's like cause and effect. You know, how was your life around this block at this point? Did you move jobs? You know, were you moving house in the middle of the block? Therefore, that's why it didn't go right. So there's all these lifestyle factors you can pull in as well. You know, what you're doing your GCSEs, is that why your track season didn't go well? So there's lots of things that affect things. You can go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. You could spend 10 hours writing one person's plan a week. Obviously I've got to be quite effective with a bigger team, but you learn how to make decisions quickly the longer you've been doing it, and you learn how to make the right decisions very quickly the longer you've been doing it as well.
How important is communication between the coach and the athlete when it comes to setting their personal goals and how their training is going currently?
It's everything really. The plan is just you telling someone what to do, but the communication is the response to the plan and the and how you build something together. Not every athlete and coach is going to get on the best. Like sometimes you get on with a person just because your characteristics suit and complement each other. You get on with some people better than others, and that's just how life works. In terms of setting goals, it's such a strange period right now. A lot of people don't know what they really want. And there's also an essence of that people don't want to say something in case they can't achieve it. So there is a massive fear of failure aspect in this climate. So you almost have to work people's goals out for them in a lot of areas. You almost have to get them to believe in a goal. And sometimes, in my own experiences, I come into situations where I set goals for people that maybe it's a goal that I want for them, rather than what they want, and that's where problems happen. It has to come from you as an athlete. It can't come from your mentors and your coaches. Like, you have to decide your future in your vision, and that's a problem. That it's not just a running problem. This is a world problem, and a lot of people are struggling to understand what they really want, and taking the risk to go and get something that is worth it. In terms of the day-to-day training, communication, it's because this club's quite virtual. Whenever I'm speaking this video, I'm really thinking about the UK as a whole, the North East as a whole. So some of the things I'm talking about is not necessarily just about the club, and I'm looking outside of running as well. So I'm bringing a lot of things into play. But because we're living in a more virtual society, communication is not as strong. And it's probably one of the later questions, but proximity is power. So for example, at the moment we're on a training camp with a few athletes, and I'm able to read their signals and get to know them at a much deeper level than I would by a WhatsApp text message, and the level of coaching is 10 times higher. So proximity is everything. Not everyone can achieve that in this setup, this kind of climate back home in the area that I work in. But that means the coaching quality has to be less, because you cannot achieve the same with virtual coaching. But if you're going to do it virtually, both sides have to be very clear, very honest, and straight to the point and tell the truth, because there is no other way to produce quality without that.
How do you keep your athletes motivated on their goals as head coach?
Firstly, I never talk about motivation, because motivation is absolutely useless. Motivation is just a desire, an urge that is fleeting, that comes and goes like the wind. It's about discipline and habits, and people around you, the environment, which I've talked about. Motivation is irrelevant, really. It's about your habits and your routines, having goals, having people around you that drive you and don't bog you down in that path. But you know, you can watch as many podcasts and motivational videos as you want, but what really changes people is doing hard stuff. So you got to get out of your comfort zone. You've got to do something that you don't like doing, that scares you. Avoid pleasure, because the more pleasure you have, the weaker your mind becomes and the smaller your comfort zone becomes. So we've got to be expanding our comfort zone. If you want to be motivated, you've got to do hard stuff, expand your comfort zone, be around other people who are expanding the comfort zone, and not stay in a little box.
Why do people not follow through with their goals?
Oh, big question. But so at the start of a block, we set out what we want to do. We set a goal that the coach and the athlete agrees with. We have a timeline, and one task I actually did this year is when we set the goal, I wrote a rough plan backwards. So let's say we want to run 10k in 39:59. I wrote the workouts, what we're going to do 4 days before that, the week before that, what's the taper week, what's the 2 week taper week, what's the peak workouts 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks before that, you know, what's the general mileage around that, what type of strength and conditioning we're doing around that. And then I wrote a few weeks before that, I wrote the plan backwards. I wrote the plan backwards to the point where we are right now, doing kind of easy running in kind of a polarized training model, and it give people the chance to see what they need to evolve to, because a block is about evolving to somewhere that you've never been before. So if you're going to go somewhere you've never been before, you have to change fundamentally as a person and leave that old person behind. It's like a psychological death of your old self, I guess. You have to become something new, you have to become something different, you have to get out your comfort zone. But what keeps you going through the block, I remember making a video when I had my surgery about a few months ago about why people fall off the block, and a lot of it is because the environment does not suit what you want to do. So if the environment does not suit your goal, you can never achieve it. Under no circumstances, you can never achieve it. So that means, you know, your training environment, where you train. It means the people around you, your influences around you. Are they lifting you up? Are they ambitious people? Are they motivating you? Are they driving you? Are they keeping you accountable? Are they telling you the truth? Or are they telling you lies? Are they telling gossip? Are they telling you not to do it because it's too much work? Are they telling you can't do it because you're not good enough? There's all these things that you have to really get right. But that's the number one reason why people come off and don't follow it through, because the environment doesn't allow them to follow it through. Unless there's a few people who are an absolute rebel against their environment and say, I don't care what other people think and I'm going to go for it. But you have to nurture that right environment. So I have a responsibility as a coach, but everyone has a responsibility. Every athlete in the UK has a responsibility to create the right environment, and it comes from you, it doesn't come from anyone else. So when you wake up, you're going to say, you know, I'm going to be disciplined today, I'm going to do good in the world, I'm going to be resilient, I'm going to get after my goals, I'm going to keep accountable, I'm going to be responsible. It all comes from you, and if everyone's like that, and if you're also willing to help others around you achieve that and raise the bar around you, the world's going to be a better place. Your training environment's going to be a better place. So really it does start with you, and it's not just about the other people around you. How can you positively affect those other people around you? And that's what everyone needs to be thinking about, and that's how more people are going to get there and achieve much better things, whether it's in running, whether it's in business, whether it's in any sport. That's the fundamental things we need.
How important is strength and conditioning within the NEP program?
Well, it's everything, and I find that most runners are incredibly weak, and you know, running is such an activity that breaks the body down. And the gains through strength and conditioning are huge. Now, most people don't like strength and conditioning because it's an extra factor to factor into the week, and most people want to run. So there's a mentality change that you have to change with people, and some people do not want to do that. Therefore, they do not get to the potential. But you have to, if you can't change the mentality around it, to believe that it's important and to set the time in the week to devote to it, to do it properly, not just to cover it and tick a box, you can never produce anything of quality, ever. So, and strength and conditioning is its own aspect within the week. It's not just about doing it like going for an easy run. It has to be with quality, it has to be progressive, it has to be developmental. You know, we have to lift heavy, we have to do plyos, we have to do drills, we have to do circuits, we have to do core, and it's a full package, and it has to be a very important part of the week. I would say it's 20% of the week really. How do we deliver it? Well, you're relying on people to be very self-sufficient in terms of going to do it. I wish we had we could get everyone together and do a gym class together and to go through it together. A bit like we're doing on this training camp right now, where people are devoting at least 3 quality sessions in the gym, 1 core session a week. And they're progressing their elements in the gym and really building it quickly. You know, some people I've seen on a 3-week training camp in the past, even now really, they've improved way more than some people have in 5 years of strength and conditioning by just ticking a box. So there's a lot of people wasting the time doing the wrong thing and not doing it fully. So, but the culture in the UK has to change on that area. It's not just an additional part of the week, it is the week. So there's a lot of work to be done on that. But yeah, in terms of how we deliver it, we do some Zoom sessions where I do like core classes. I used to do lower limb classes. I write down specifically what people need to do, and I give some kind of power back to the athlete in terms of picking certain exercises that they need to do, because you can't necessarily pick every exercise for everyone on the right day virtually. So we try and get people to set goals. So over a block, we want to set goals in our S&C. We want to achieve this by this, lift this weight by this, and yeah, the block, like I talked about before, in the 4 to 6 months, the strength and conditioning should be progressive and developmental, and then it should be tapered before the big race. And then in the recovery period after the big race, it's a very important aspect for building the body back up, ready to go again in the base and build back strong and go for the next thing. So yeah, fundamental part of the club.
Is there any way to add S&C into the runs, such as like?
Well, you know this, and so yeah. So I sometimes trick people, because you have to if you want to maintain the population healthy, and yeah, to cover the bases of not doing it properly. So we use originally in the base. So in the base phase, we use Canova's hill circuits, which is a bit out there. I don't really know anyone actually in the UK doing that. Where we do some running, we do some drills, and we do some strength exercises on a hilly circuit, and we do it as like a 6 to 8 minute circuit where you don't stop it at max intensity, and you have a long recovery and you do a few sets of it. That proved, first time really I've done it in full with a lot of people, and that proved a really good way to improve people capacity to tolerate a load, so they could run 20-30 more miles a week for the same effort, because the structures could handle it, and that provided a really good base for that. And there's a bit of an anaerobic stimulus and a form stimulus for that. Sometimes I use, well, we do weekly, we do 10-second hill sprints, the classic kind of short hill sprints for power, a lactic hill sprints with a long recovery, and every 2 weeks really I do like to use a lot of just an outright hill session, probably in the rotation, both uphill and downhill, because we don't want to be too quad dominant, so we've got to do a little bit of both, and also just a lot of general mileage on different terrain. So somewhere like this where we are right now in Fontenoy, it's really good because we get thousands of feet in a week of just general easy running up and down hills and sessions on hills. So I'm very terrain specific with what I set as well. A workout is not just the workout, but it's where you do the workout. This is really important, and you can get extra stimulus by changing the terrain. It's why we do so many different locations. It's why we do so many different training camps around the place. But yeah, that can drive more results as well. Choosing wisely where you train.
What are your philosophies as head coach of Northeast Projects?
So this has been built over a long period of time and through a lot of different sources and experiences. It's a mixture of kind of what I've learned through research and looking at other notable coaches in the endurance industry. It's built from the in-person coaching of the last 9 years, in terms of having a big kind of collection of data and information and responses from hundreds of people that went through NEP. Trial and error through my own running as well, which is important over the last 17 years of running. I think you really have to have a feel of yourself for doing it, and push yourself to actually understand what it takes to be a good endurance athlete, not just to be a coach. I think all coaches should continuously be pushing themselves physically and mentally in their own aspect. You've got to lead by example. But in terms of the nuts and bolts of the philosophy, it's very much built on periodization. So linked to Canova's model of funnel periodization, where you start from the extremes in goal pace. So I guess to start from the beginning, it's understanding what the athlete wants and understanding clear goals between the coach and the athlete. I work in 4 to 6 month blocks. If people don't want to work in 4 to 6 month blocks, we can't achieve big things, but we could achieve something. Not everyone has the personality to work in 4 to 6 month blocks, because it requires consistency, discipline, in a long-term strategy. But funnel periodization, building a base, moving to something more specific, and then peaking for a big event that we want to really do well in, and then a nice recovery phase, and we repeat that cycle 2 or 3 times a year. That's the professional way to do it. It's not always the way it works with people's lives and stuff. I take other inspiration from other coaches such as Jack Daniels, Bill Bowerman, some of the stuff with Alberto Salazar in the 2010s, not the kind of drug side, but especially the strength and conditioning side of that aspect. The Patrick Sangs of the world, the kind of Arthur Lydiards, and looking back through history, history is such a big part of it as well. When I first started learning about coaching when I was 11 or 12, that's when I wanted to be a coach. I would read from the 1800s of what people did all the way up until present day, and I would connect the dots, like a dot connector, I guess, throughout my running career, and the people I coach, and connect things from all these different aspects and bring it together. I think it's important to have a variety of sources of information and knowledge to produce the best product.
What is the difference between in-person, group, and virtual coaching within NEP?
Well, in person's better, group's slightly less better, and virtual's less. It's how your life is, isn't it? So I mean, you come to me and you live in Sydney. I mean, we ain't going to do much in-person coaching, but NEP was built as an in-person model. It wasn't built as a virtual coaching model. And when I said online when I was 18, 19, when I was building it, it wasn't that I'm going to make you the best that you can be without seeing you. So that was so the model is in-person mentorship, in proximity is really important. But for example, you could use some scenarios. Tiredness and fatigue is a big factor of the week. If we use one example, compare that to training in front with a few athletes, coaching in front, versus kind of I'm coaching virtually, all the athletes back home. Someone at home tells me that they're tired and they're struggling with the week over a text message. They might send it at 10:30 at night, say on a Friday night, okay? Now, I'm not likely to reply to that probably until Saturday morning, or really it wouldn't be unreasonable to have Saturday off, weekend off. So then you could go a day without speaking to them. So then they do something different on Saturday that maybe you both haven't agreed to or found the best solution to. In person, you can manipulate it like that, and you can change it, and you can adapt and respond in the moment, and you can really find out what the heart of the problem is. So is it because they had 4 hours sleep last night? Is it because the diet's been rubbish? You've seen what they've been eating all day. Are they actually just being weak and just being weak-minded? Are they just in the comfort zone? Do they need stretching out the comfort zone? So you can't tell that by a text message, but you can tell it by in person. And in 90% of cases, it's normally the what I've just talked about in terms of people are in the comfort zone and you introduce them to a new level of work ethic. But often sleep, diet and stress is a huge factor around that. But that's about how you organise your life, and that's why mentorship is important. But also being on these type of training camps and in person is the only way you can really model someone like that. Very difficult in a virtual stance.
What extracurricular activities does NEP bring?
Quite a lot. I mean, we're on a roll at the start of the year. We were doing talks and lab testing and camps and setting up everything really. But yeah, I like to keep a lot of stuff going outside of just the training because it's too boring, too regimented. We've done some talks. We'd like to do a regular talk where we get a lot of the club together, or other people outside the club as well, to come talk about our training philosophy. We got some other people to come along. Before the one we did in, I can't remember when it was, I think it was April, we got some different people from different areas: nutrition, physiology, psychology, so that educational standpoint. And I'll talk about another thing about education. But we do training weekends. I think we must have done, since NEP was set up, I think we've done over 40 training weekends since 2020. We used to do one every month when everyone loved it, but now it's a little bit harder. But yeah, I do them probably a UK training weekend 3 or 4 times a year possibly, each season. And then we do some altitude training. We've been to Portugal a couple of times, but Fontremont is the best place. Really, we should just move everyone out of Fontremont and that would be easier. And then maybe went to the UK now and then. But yeah, altitude is like, somewhere like Fontremont is absolutely fantastic, and it just gives people a flavour of what they truly can be when everything aligns: the diet, the sleep, the reduced stress, the work ethic around the town, and just the absolute amazing scenery, the connection you've got to nature, and just to live like a pro is to learn that, not to read about it or to listen to a podcast or to listen to another Instagram reel, but to actually do it is, it frustrates me how many people stay in a bubble back at home and not just get out and do stuff. We need to take more people here. That's going to be my objective in future years, is to bring more people to places like this, to get more people in these environments, to see what they're truly capable of. Another initiative that we've built is something called School like a NEP scholar program on school, which is our educational system, because I need to be able to teach. So I teach through the sessions, and I post little bits within the community. But you know, in a set training plan. But a training plan is not coaching. So you need to be able to teach people why they're doing it and why we're going on this journey and why we're going on this path, and to be able to educate people, you know, in terms of the mindset as well. But really, it's so deep, the knowledge factor, and I'm just trying to put 17 years into that, but there's a hell of a lot more on top of that, into something that's easy to understand. So on school, there's different modules that people can tap into and out of, that is a mixture of kind of videos, me talking and explaining things, some written things, some little tests on there as well, some case studies of people in the club who have came on a journey, and this training's produced this, and we can bring little stories in from the club in the last 9 years. We can bring case studies in from outside in the history of endurance running. But key areas I'm talking about are kind of the physiology and the science of what happens when we train. So important to understand. I'm talking about the psychology around everything. I'm talking about goal setting. I'm talking about the history of training, the main coaches and the models where I've got stuff from. I'm talking about nutrition. I'm talking about how to be coached. So how to talk to a coach and get coached and ask the right questions. That's such an area that people don't even tap into, because a lot of people have been coached for the first time when they come here, so they don't know the ins and outs of that, kind of the unwritten rules. But yeah, there's lots of modules on there, and it's a forever expanding thing, because you can always learn more, and there's always more to know. So that's a really good hub that we use within the club.
What makes NEP different?
I tell the truth.